Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Top Producer Show. My name is Brandy, and this is Jeff. And the whole point of the Top Producer Show is to show you guys what it actually takes to become a top producer in your company. Now, a lot of what we talk about on here is going to be directed towards network marketing. However, all the methods that we use here, we actually use in our traditional businesses as well. So if you learn it here, you can also take it elsewhere as well. So we are going over the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and we are on chapter 17 today, which is how to stick to good habits every day.
You mean 16.
16. What did I say? 15?
17.
17? Oh, I haven't finished my coffee yet, so I was close. So, in this chapter, he covers having some visual to track your habits, because most of the time your habits, you're not going to be able to see the progression. So it's kind of like working out at the gym. You're going to go to the gym and you're not going to see results on the first workout. You're going to be sore, but you're not going to see anything. First week, not going to see anything. Second week, not going to see anything. And then it takes a while before you really start to see results. And a lot of people have a hard time not being able to see anything, because it's hard when you're not seeing anything. So another example that he gave is a man with a sales company had 2 jars that he would keep on his desk, and it had 120 paper clips in one, and the other one was empty. And as he did his sales calls, what he would do is he would take a paper clip out of the one and put it in the other jar. And then throughout the day, as he was making his calls, he kept doing that until eventually there were no more paper clips in the other jar. So that's an example of creating a visual of progression for yourself, so that way you could see it every day. So his name was Trent. How did he pronounce this? Is this
Dismond?
Dismond? Okay, I wasn't sure. I was trying to check, but within 8 months of him, within 8 months, he was bringing $5 million to the firm. And by age 24, he was making $75,000 per year, which was the equivalent of $125,000 today. And not long after, he landed himself another job, which was 6 figures with another company. And that was all due to the strategy that he put together every single day of, this is how many calls I need to make. So with everyone that we have brought onto our team, we actually kind of use similar methods, but not like in a jar. But we always tell people to track your activity, have a goal of how many people you're going to text each day, and then actually, I always do tallies. Like, I find that is the easiest to do, because I can actually see how many I'm getting done. So the goal is always, I'm going to be texting 100 leads a day. That never changes. That is the minimum activity that I have to get done. And then however many people get back to me, then I do all of my presentations. I've done as many as 13 presentations in one day, and that was from like 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Now, that might be a little late for some people, but we run on a later schedule. But then what I do is, that's how I kept track, and it helped me keeping track is also going to help motivate you, because since you can see the progression, it's going to help motivate you all the more, because you can actually see what's going on. And then what you do is you track what you're doing daily, you track what you're doing weekly, and then the monthly, and you have to have a goal of what you need to have done by the end of the month. Now, when you're first starting, your numbers are not going to be as good, and that's okay, because you got to get better. So we'll always compare our activity log of like where our numbers are. And I'm like, when you start to get better, the rule of thumb is out of 10 people, you're going to get one or two people who are going to get back to you, and somebody's going to sign up out of those. Or hold on, let me organize that a little better. Out of every 10 people, my ratio was I would get 3 people who would get back to me, And then out of the 3 people, I'll get 1 person who would sign up. So that was the last numbers of what I put together. But in the beginning, you might have to go through a lot more people because it never fails. Somebody always changes the script and the process because they don't like something that was said. Then they think, oh, well, this would be better. And then later they're just like, why am I not signing anybody up? And we're just like, well, let's take a look, see what you're doing. I have a cat climbing on the back of my chair. Yay. You might have to put her in the other room because she's fuzzing on me. But she's crazy. She's been running around and it's springtime. But it never fails. Somebody always changes the process, and then we have to go back through and figure out, like, okay, what did you change? Is there something else that you're doing that's that we did not show you how to do that is changing your result? So once we fix that, then we can eventually get people up to those numbers where they're going to have way more success. Now, the nice thing is with the texting leads, depending on where you get your leads from, the better the quality of the lead, the more you spend on leads, or the quality of the lead, the better results you're going to get. Because if you're spending money on leads that are like 5 years old, it's going to take way more people compared to a lead that's just pulled where it's newer. You're going to have an easier time. But the biggest thing with sticking to good habits on this part, where it's your daily activity, having the goal of how many people you're going to physically text that day, and then just keeping track of it. And we always recommend to people having a notebook. I like to use the tally system where I'll mark it on my whiteboard, and then at the end of the day, I have like my log, my little log where I have my calendar where I have each day, like, okay, this is how many people I texted, here's how many people that got back to me, how many people I presented to, and I have that process. Now, I've kind of moved away from how many people physically got back to me to more how many people am I actually running through the entire process, because at some point there was just so many people going through, I had to cut one part off because it was taking more time trying to keep track of that, and it really wasn't necessary at that point. But when you're first starting, you want to keep track of those numbers because you want to know if something's working. Because if people aren't replying, then there's a problem, and then we have to look at it. So that's pretty much what I got from this chapter and how we've applied it. So I'm going to turn this over to you for your takeaways.
Okay, so how to stick with good habits every day. Making progress is satisfying, and visual measures like moving paper clips or hairpins or marbles or pennies, because I've seen it pennies, provide clear evidence of your progress. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to literally trick yourself into thinking, hey, I'm moving forward, by the visual representation. So this is the reason sales forces use whiteboards to track how many numbers. That was one of the first things that I learned how to do prior to network marketing. We were always tracking the number of presentations we were doing. But the first real, when I call real job, because I worked at Burger King or something and a video store, but the first real job I had was in the mortgage business. In the mortgage business, there were certain activities that led up to actually closing on a mortgage. Things like the number of outgoing calls, things like the number of pre-qualifications, things like the number of applications, things like the appraisals done, the docs signed. And we had a chart. So anytime you moved anybody through that chart, you actually physically had to make a mark. And what it did is each week it showed you kind of where you were. And then those numbers were moved over to another board. That way you had kind of, here's what's going on for the day, here's what's going on for the week, here's what's going on for the month. That process led to me closing 19 mortgages the very first 90 days I was involved, which is a lot for somebody brand new who, I didn't even know what a mortgage was. So that visual is huge. Visual measurement comes in many forms, aka tracking. So how do you keep track of your habits? The simplest way is to get a calendar and mark off the days. That's one of the easiest ways. Hey, here's what I did today. Here's what I did today. Like journaling. Franklin Planner made a ton of money and still does. And his thoughts: lose no time, always be employed in something useful, Avoid trifling conversations that are BS, conversations that emotionally damage you, conversations that are going nowhere, taking up your time, anything trifling. So don't break the chain of sales calls was another one. Benefit. So the benefit is habit tracking is obvious. Obviously, you'd want to track what you're doing because that's just kind of what I learned is professionals track, right? If you go to any Olympic athlete or any athlete that's at the professional level, they are tracking everything. Everything. You know what poor people are tracking? The number of potato chips they just ate. I mean, it's just like they're not tracking the same things. They track the number of episodes they've watched on TV versus the number of calls versus the number of closings versus the number of recruits versus the number of, maybe cities that they're in. We all track. It's just we're tracking different things. Record your last action creates a trigger that initiates your next one. So it's kind of like these habits build upon themselves. Habit tracking naturally builds as a series of visual clues like an X marks the spot on your calendar. Research shows that people who track their progress on goals are more likely to improve than those who don't. So the people who wing it always do less. Always. Because you're constantly trying to trick yourself into thinking you're doing more. Just kind of the way that it works. So the mere act of tracking a behavior can spark the urge to actually change it and improve it. Once, because you can be going along and just not really getting to where you want to go. And then as soon as you start tracking, one of two things usually happens. Either it's a love because people are like, okay, now I can see that I'm on track. Or it's a hate because now you can't screw around. Now you can't talk your way out of it. Now, it's written down. That's why big companies track what's going on. So that way when they're eliminating people, they're like, look, we asked you to do this, and here's what you did. It was not what we asked you to do, so therefore we're letting you go based on performance. And that's unfortunate, but that's how it works. The 11th commandment. So we used to say the 11th commandment in network marketing is thou shalt not kid thyself. Tracking allows you to overcome good intentions and create a clear picture of what is actually happening. So I don't know, but that actually came to me while I was reading this. I was like, well, that's what tracking really does. Tracking allows us as an individual to overcome our good intentions and create a clear picture of what is actually happening. Because most of the time, we have this made up version of what's going on in our head. Habit tracking also keeps our eye on the ball. You're focused on the progress rather than the result. It feels satisfying when you have a record of your success. So that way you can look back and be like, did I do anything? Yes. Here's what I did. Mm-hmm. There is no need to track in every area of your life, just the areas you want to improve. Manual tracking should be only for the most important habits. He goes on to say, a lot of activity can be tracked via, some kind of digital source. Always track right after you completed an activity, how to recover quickly when habits break down. Nobody's perfect. You're going to miss. The best rule is never miss twice. The first mistake is usually never the one that ruins you. It's when you slowly stop doing this and slowly stop doing that, right? Lost days hurt you much more than successful days help you. And he talked about compounding interest, and he's like, the reality is if you go from 100 and you have a 30% better day, you're great. But when you go 30% backwards, the percentage is much, much greater. The first rule of compounding is never interrupt it unnecessarily. That actually comes from Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger is actually Warren Buffett's one of Warren Buffett's financial partners in Berkshire Hathaway, which obviously has done well. It's one of the best performing stocks. The bad workouts are often the most important ones. Getting to the gym is more important than what you're doing at the gym. It's not about the workout so much as the person you're becoming by showing up every day. So, knowing when and when not to track a habit. The number of people paying for a meal and the number of people loving the meal is not the same. So it's really important to, one of my mentors, David Bird, said it's really important to find the most effective things to do and then do them consistently over a long enough period of time to create the result you're looking for. One of the biggest problems is most people never find the exact things they should be doing. What I was taught as KPIs, key performance indicators. So it's not just the number of hours you're putting in, but the effectiveness of the hour you're putting in. The number you track is important, but not at the expense of everything else. Remember what is really important. And what is really important is, are you moving ahead? Are you tracking the right thing? Not are you tracking, but are you tracking the right thing? You're like, cool, I got up, I ate 1 piece of cereal, I ate 2 pieces of cereal, I ate 3 pieces of cereal. Tracking the cereal probably isn't as important. The number of cereal and how much you ate the whole day and what you were eating, the content of what you were eating might be more important than the number of Frosted Flakes you're eating. So that's what we got for today, or that's what I have. The purpose of the Top Producer Show is, basically to keep us on track. I wanted to be able to read and grow consistently. When we did shows like this before, I did them with Bess and the MLM Millionaire Academy. We did them kind of on our own for a little while during the shutdown. I won't even call it pandemic, the shutdown. And we decided, as part of my leadership network, as part of the company we're growing in the training company, it would be good to bring this back. So, we own a coaching, we own a certification program. The number one thing that we help people with is leads. That's the number one thing that we have to help people with. Where are you going to find your next person? So if you want information on that, I would go over to my leadership net or joinmyleadershipnetwork.com and go underneath the video and click join now, fill out a profile, and we'll get with you and tell you all about our lead program. With that, I'll turn it over to Brandy.
All right. And each one of these videos is going to be uploaded to YouTube. So you want to go subscribe to the Top Producer Show. And we also have a YouTube channel for our company, My Leadership Network, and the TikTok and Instagram. So be sure to go follow us on all of our social media, because we are posting stuff there where it's small trainings and little things out there. Everybody likes to go follow that sort of stuff. So you want to make sure that you go follow us on those platforms as well. So with that is what we have for you guys today. We are here through Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock, and we will see you guys tomorrow.